Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason. First off, apologies for the sound. Still working, waiting on a new microphone. Weren't happy with the last one, so we're just going direct with the camera. So hopefully you can hear me okay. Now, I've got three little gems for you today, all found in the constellation of Hercules. So without any further ado, let's first have a look at the constellation of Hercules. Now, the easiest way of identifying Hercules is by using a little asterism known as the keystone of Hercules. Now, if you look towards the center of the constellation, you can see that it's like a distinctive keystone type pattern that you would find in like a stone archway or a stone bridge. And this is a really good thing and it's quite distinctive in the night sky. In fact, it's the keystone that you're going to find before you will any of the other part of Hercules. And so what you need to do is, this time of year, which is midsummer at the time of recording this video, and as the year goes on, Hercules will move around slowly to the west. Earlier in the year, obviously, it's going to be more over in the east. But this time of year, it's going to be pretty high up there in the sky. So you want to be standing southwest, something like that, and look straight up, basically. And one good identifier on a good way of getting in the right area of finding the keystone or Hercules itself is this star Vega. Now, if you're familiar with Vega, it's in the constellation of Lyra. Even if you're not familiar with Vega, it's the brightest star almost overhead during midsummer. You can't mistake it. So once you've found Vega, it's like a very bright bluish looking star. If you go slightly west from, apologies for the background noise, I live, there's a railway line about 200 yards at the back of me, and I forgot to close the window. Apologies for that. Yeah, so if you just go down south, a little bit west of Vega, you will come to the keystone of Hercules. Now, once you've found and identified Hercules or the keystone, you're going to have no trouble finding our first target tonight, M13. Now, M13 is known as the Great Globular Cluster, purely because it's one of the brightest deep sky objects in the night sky, and relatively easy to find. Now, we're going to use the keystone again, and we're going to go to the right-hand two stars, the top one and the bottom star of the right-hand side of the keystone. Now, if we draw a line between those two stars, and about 3/4 of the way up from the bottom, or 1/4 of the way down from the top, you're going to come to M13. Now, always when searching for deep sky targets, even bright ones such as M13, use low powered eyepieces or low magnification eyepieces to start off with. Something like a 20mm or above. This is going to give you a wider field of view, and it's going to give you a lot more chance in actually spotting M13. Now, once you have identified it and got it centered in the eyepiece, you can actually, with brighter clusters like this, increase the magnification a little bit. What you'll find there is it actually darkens the background a little bit, improves the contrast, and really makes those individual stars pop. And once you do find it, spend some time at the eyepiece. Don't have a quick glance and then go on to something else, because the more time you actually spend at the eyepiece, the more of them individual stars and the actual structure of the cluster will actually start taking form in the eyepiece the longer you spend there. Now, it's come to my attention that there are some of you that are still struggling to find M13, and I can think of three things that you could be doing wrong. One, you're using too much magnification to start off with, and you're overshooting it. Another one, it sounds obvious, but trust me, people do this. I mean, I've been guilty of this in the past when I was learning. It's just you're looking in the completely wrong place. It's important that you get that keystone asterism orientated the right way and make sure that you are looking at the right hand side of it, not the left hand. And finally, over expectation. We are spoilt today on the internet with fantastic photographs such as this, and you often hear people talk about the great globular cluster of Hercules, the big bright globular cluster of Hercules, and you're expecting to see this in the eyepiece, and in reality you're going to be seeing this. But don't be disappointed or anything like that. Like I say, the more time you spend at the eyepiece observing these faint little things, the more the structure they will take. So when I say your over expectation is, you could be again overshooting it. You're expecting this big bright dazzling thing to suddenly pop into view in the eyepiece, and you may be just rushing it a little bit. So take your time, make sure you're looking in the right place, make sure you've got the right eyepiece in, and just generally take your time. Sweep the sky very, very slowly, you know, tiny movements at a time. And depending on what size of telescope you're using, smaller ones, obviously the smaller that it's going to be. On some telescopes it may even look just like an out of focus star at first. So don't like you know, like I say, expect this big bright dazzling blob, because it won't be. So just look carefully, look in the right place, use the right magnification, and then you're on the road to success. Now, just up from M13, at the top of Hercules, or should I say at the bottom actually, because Hercules is actually upside down in the northern hemisphere. But at the top of the keystone, if you like, we're going to find M92, our second target tonight. Now, M92 is a bit of an overlooked globular cluster because M13 kind of takes all the glory. But in my opinion, M92 is just as pretty, just as striking as M13, because again, it's quite a bright globular cluster. It's exactly the same as M13. When I say exactly the same, they're both globular clusters. Now, the way to find M92 is we'll go to the top of the keystone. Remember, the top of the keystone is the two widest stars, and we're going to draw a line connecting them two top stars. Now, if you draw a same length line, now obviously you're imagining this when you're out in the night sky, you do another imaginary line 90 degrees from those two stars at the top of the keystone. Now, the best way I can say this is, imagine there's now a clock face superimposed, bear with me, and we're now at 3 o'clock, if you like, by doing these imaginary lines. Move the hand to 5 past 3. At the end of the big hand is M92. Quite a strange way of putting it, but I'm sure you'll find it that way. And again, use low power at first and just make sure you sweep it around in the right area. And once you've found M92, there's no reason why you can't, again, gradually increase the power. Now, Rasalgethi is our final target tonight. Now, Rasalgethi is a really interesting double star. So first of all, let's have a look at how you find it.
Now, Rasalgethi is relatively easy to find, but you can mistake it for another star. Now, I'll just show you where it is. It's just here. Now, the easiest way to know that you're in the right area is, first of all, you'll have already identified this star here, the top star of the keystone. And then if we go down to this star here, and then Rasalgethi, you can see that it almost forms a perfect straight line between those three stars. You'll know you've got it wrong because you can easily mistake it for this star here, and in that case you can see we've got more of a crooked line. So there's an easy way of finding Rasalgethi.
Now, to split this double, you are going to need a lot of power, quite a considerable amount of it actually, and this is where your Barlow lenses are going to come into play. A good quality Barlow lens, if you've got shorter focal length telescopes, and your higher powered eyepieces. This is going to be your, your 10s and below. Now, but as always get the star centered with a lower powered eyepiece first. Get that nice and centered, and then gradually start increasing the power to split these two, because like I say, to get them to split, you are going to need a lot of power and reasonably good conditions. You want to make sure that the atmosphere is nice and steady. A good test for this is just to look at the stars themselves. Pick a nice bright star. We've mentioned Vega. If Vega's out, look at Vega and just notice how it's actually twinkling. If it's twinkling really fast, that means the conditions are quite unstable and you're not going to have much chance in splitting double stars. What you're looking for is a nice soft undulating pattern in the twinkling, if you like. This way you know the atmosphere is nice and calm, got a better chance of splitting double stars. Now, Alpha Hercules is another name given to this double, and what you're actually looking at is a red giant, and I do mean giant. This thing is unbelievably, well, unimaginably big. Now, our sun, for instance, if you got sun and Earth, you could actually put 1 million Earths inside our sun. Well, Alpha Hercules is 400 times bigger than our sun. So this thing is huge. I always love the challenge of double stars. They're a good test for your telescope's optics. You know, it's a good test for if you're using a reflector, how well you've got it collimated. If you're using a refractor, how well your optics are in the actual telescope. Because if you're starting splitting double stars and seeing colour in them, then you know you're onto a good thing. You know you're doing something right. Well, there you go, folks. 3 Herculean targets for you to go and hunt and find on the next clear night. Don't forget to go and have a look at my homepage as well, my main page here on YouTube, under the playlist section for things to find, for more interesting things to go and have a look at. It is seasonal, so no matter what time you're watching this video, I'm sure you'll find something to go and have a look at. Well, that's it for another video, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, if you like the video, hit that thumbs up button because it really does help the channel. In the meantime, guys, take good care of yourselves and I will see you on the next one. Bye for now.